Hi, and welcome to Executives in Tech, powered by MavenX. My name is Catherine Joffrey, and I will be your host today. A little bit about MavenX. They are your ServiceNow expert, and I work on the business development side for customer success. But we are so excited today to welcome, we have 3 panel speakers, and they're with G&J Pepsi. So without further ado, let me quickly introduce our speakers today. So first, we have Brian Balzer, Executive VP of Digital Technology, Eric McKinney, Enterprise Infrastructure Director, Daniel Foster, Director of Digital Technology. So welcome to all 3 of you. We're so excited to have you on today and share this experience with us with executives in technology. So I want to start with the first question I'm going to send over to Brian. And just we'd love to hear a little bit about your career and how you became a leader in the technology industry. But before we go into that, I do want to quickly let all of our audience know that this is a recorded session and that we will be sending out the recording afterwards for everyone. And as questions come through, we do ask that you go ahead and leave those in the chat, and we'll be sure to address those at the end of this session. Now, again, back to Brian. First question, will you share an experience about your career that led you to your current role as a technology leader with G&J Pepsi?
Yeah, thanks for having us. We're excited to be here and excited to participate and be a part of this. When I think back about, my career and as my career has developed, as you mature and grow as a person, you also do the same thing in your career, and you start to seek out ways to stretch and improve and become the best you can be. And I reached a point in my career when, I was in a previous role at a previous company, and they were going in a different direction as my career was developing and growing, and I needed to decide, if that was the direction I wanted to go and if that was what I wanted to be a part of, or, if it would help me be the best that I could be. And, I had learned so much in my past experiences, and I believed I had more to share, more ways to grow, and the ability to make positive change at G&J. And so, as such, I found the right place for me as a technologist and as a leader. And I felt like I could leverage my past experiences to really harness them into making that actionable change at G&J and really to enable us to explore business transformation and digital transformation in new ways and exciting ways. And, for me, it was all about assessing where I was in my career, where I wanted to go, how I wanted to improve on a personal level from a personal development perspective, and really how to make meaningful change through my past experiences.
Wonderful, and thank you for sharing. We appreciate that. I'm going to pass off this one over to Eric and Daniel. So we'll start off with Eric. Flexibility and innovation underline the current success of G&J Pepsi. What solutions have proven successful for your team? And also the second part of the question is, what were some of the challenges as well?
I would say, I think everyone's pretty familiar, at least those that, have maybe followed us on previous articles we've got out from Microsoft, is pretty aware of our Power Platform strategies being one of our biggest wins. But I like to look back, 5+ years, and it was really kind of founded in our cloud first strategy, where when cloud was brand new, I can remember Eric and I going and looking at Azure, and it was just basically barely a portal at all that had maybe a couple servers you could add to it. And we were looking at that at Ignite at the time, it was Tech Ed at the time. And we kind of saw the future there, and we really drove towards this consolidation strategy and this cloud first strategy. And I think that was the ultimate beginning of the successes that we started. So I think our Power Platform, our Power BI success, our Azure success all really started with that initial strategy of cloud first, consolidate, streamline, and simplify what we were doing. Eric, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think when you look back at, like Dan mentioned, our previous successes really were driven from that cloud first strategy, and we did it sequentially, right? So starting 6-7 years ago, we made our first entry into the cloud using Microsoft Exchange Online, and then we just kept knocking down opportunity after opportunity, solution after solution by migrating to SharePoint Online or OneDrive or Yammer. And then as we got through that, then we started with the data center. So migrating a lot of our servers, a lot of services there, migrating to, at the time, Skype for Business Online, and then to Azure, which then beget the Power Platform, which now begets moving into Dynamics. So just continue to knock all of those down. Additionally, we we moved our network infrastructure all to cloud as well. So, without doing some of those subsequent steps of taking that first entry into those cloud offerings, we wouldn't have the current successes and innovation that we have, because we'd be so focused on leveraging, or so focused on back office data center, power, cooling, backups, keeping the lights on, right? So by offloading some of those tasks, or some of that work, we were able to focus more on the business, and developing solutions for the business, as opposed to things that don't really add value to the business. It's just keeping the lights on, as Dan said. So, I'm really proud of the work that we've done over the past 6-7 years. And I really feel like now, not only are we doing a great job of securing our organization, keeping our lights on, but we're also helping them drive ahead.
Yeah, I think ironically, a lot of that push initially from the team that we had to move to the cloud and to move to these consolidated, simplified systems. It started from, 7 data centers to 2 data centers to 1 data center to an outsourced data center to the cloud. And that was, I think we moved 6 data centers. We moved data centers 6 times in 5 years. And the team was really just kind of founded in being a small team. And, quite frankly, we got tired of getting called at night. It was the same 5 or 6 people that were constantly on call. So that was really our own internal driver. So some of the challenges there were it was a lot of late nights. And it honestly takes a lot of guts to move your data center 6 or 7 times. A lot of headaches of just the pace of change that we were under, and the business trying to adapt to that pace of change. It didn't come without its issues. So, some of the other challenges, like just the business seeing the strategy behind that innovation. I think they've always supported us through that. I think we kind of struggled to tell the story about what we were trying to accomplish and what that strategy was going to do. Ultimately, they stuck with us, and I think it's paying off now. But so it was just keeping them on board through all the moves, and why are we moving data centers all the time? They stuck in there with us, and then just your own team when you're constantly transitioning different types of servers, different services, VMware to the cloud. They had to upskill. They had to change their skills. They had to upskill, cross-skill a lot. So just keeping that team on their toes and keeping them sharp, that took a lot of work. And then with them, the pace of change too, trying to keep them, engaged and sticking with us through the strategy. And ultimately, they had to change their mindsets in the end. So like Eric said, once we transitioned to a point of we are now business first, instead of just being a traditional in the server room IT department, they had to change their mindset that they were to focus on the business and try to solve problems and find solutions that were business first, and not just, hey, we're just doing IT stuff back here. We're just keeping email rolling, and we're keeping your phone system going. So they had to upskill, cross-skill their own tech skills, and then they had to change their mindset to be business first.
I think also, just to highlight what Dan said, necessity really bred innovation, because, up until past couple of years, we were a really small team. I mean, there was only 6 or 7 of us managing, all of the infrastructure, network, power, cooling, backups, and delivering these services to our organization. So necessity really kind of drove innovation. Like Dan said, we didn't want to be woke up at 5 a.m. We've had our fair share of power outages and complete outages and SAN upgrades that went awry. And now we don't have to worry about that as much anymore. I would consider, like I said, our cloud migration done. Well, one of the more, I think, there's a lot of, documentation around our successes with the Power Platform and some of the other things that we've done. But I think one of the ones that often gets overlooked is, and one of the more recent ones, is when you're working with COVID. A lot of people had to, in haste, had to move home, right? They had to pack up and they had to go home. For our users, that was a low cost of entry for them to actually get out and go home, pack up their stuff, just pack up their desks and go home, and realize that they could literally just turn on their computer and start working, because, what comes with cloud technologies makes it ubiquitous, right? And you can continue working like you always have. Additionally, I think some of the successes that we've seen is we now deliver services. We can scale our services, and we now deliver our services to all 1,600 of our employees. So that means everybody from the CEO all the way down to an individual that loads trucks, puts, boxes on the line out here. They have OneDrive, they have SharePoint, they have Yammer, they have Stream. They can communicate. We can communicate across the entire spectrum, unified. We don't have to send an email to this group and then communicate with this group and another manager. They all can get out to like the G&J News. Our communications team does a great job of publishing a weekly, here's what's happening. And everybody has access to all of that, all 1,600. Additionally, we've integrated a number of single sign-on applications. So it makes the employee experience from getting their benefits and various other offerings seamless for those employees that maybe aren't comfortable with technology, might be a way of saying, and have to remember 5, 6, 7, 8 passwords to get to these services. So we've really done a great job of coming a long way of delivering services to all of our employees and making it a great experience for all of them as well. And that often doesn't get talked about, but it's something I think we're really proud of, and being able to deliver that, out to our employees that are out serving our customers every day of the week.
Eric, that's some great information. It sounds like you've done a wonderful job of ensuring that transparency across all departments is what it really sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's wonderful. So congrats to both you and Daniel, and obviously Brian as well, because that's great that you've been able to transition in this very strange digital transformation time that we're all experiencing, which actually is a great segue to our next question, which I'm going to toss this back to Brian. We've noticed a shortage surrounding aluminum cans. Seeing that a robust amount of aluminum actually comes from China, and that portion of the global supply chain has been impacted. As the industry standards have shifted from direct to business, starting there, now it's direct to consumer. How was it that your team was able to combat this shift? And really, how was it that you've been able to stay relevant? And then the last thing, are you utilizing data to forecast future trends?
Yeah, all good questions, and certainly things that we've had to address and deal with as it's impacted our business. From an overall business standpoint, the aluminum shortage has been an issue across the entire bottling community, not just for G&J. So our competitors, others in other parts of the bottling industry, whether it be beer or whatever. So for us, we had to try to over-index our can purchases when we could and stay out in front of that demand. But it's been a struggle. We're a very high concentration of, there's a very high concentration of demand, concentration of can demand in our market. And that's particularly due because we have such a high concentration of Mountain Dew and Pepsi consumers in our market. We have the highest Mountain Dew index in the world. I actually have a video of someone in our market trying to buy 552 cans of Mountain Dew at one time last year. So when I say it's high demand in Ohio, Kentucky, it's really high demand for our products.
That's about us. Okay. Good to know. Good consumers, right?
Yeah. Consumers love our products, which is great.
Great.
But we weren't able to provide as many flavors. We couldn't offer as many flavors as we traditionally did. So we had to offer more of our core trademark brands and flavors and make them more accessible. And we also had to work hard to make our single serve products available at checkout and other high traffic areas where people would seek out Pepsi. Now for us, we not only were the cans difficult to acquire, but then we try to fill that space with 1 liters, 2 liters, and other ways. And also, fortunately for us, we have our own blow mold facility where we produce our own bottles. So this was really a strategic advantage for us, and we've produced nearly 1.5 billion bottles in the last 4 years to meet that consumer demand, and it was a strategic advantage during the COVID pandemic that we could provide product in other ways. In terms of data, I think we've made some really big leaps in our digital transformation arena by developing things like auto orders based off of Azure machine learning. So traditionally, when an order writer is servicing a customer like Kroger or Walmart, they could have anywhere up to 250 different SKUs that they have to manage manually. This requires them to go in and manually count all the holes on the shelves, look at what's in box stock, and then determine what order quantities they need in order to fill the demand. And so they would go open up their iPad and they would open up the application, and then they would fill in those values manually. And previously this would take 60, sometimes even 90 minutes, depending on the store, And they would have to do this 3 to 5 times a week. Now, that's an excessive amount of work for people to do manually. So we're in the middle of a pilot that we're about to expand next week that delivers a predicted order to the order writer that has reduced that effort to under 10 minutes, in some cases 5 minutes. So, we're removing a ton of costs, we're improving efficiency, and we're really providing those folks, those frontline employees and those sales folks to go after new revenue opportunities that they haven't been able to do in the past.
That's great. That's wonderful. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's very exciting. All right, I'm going to toss this one over to Eric. What efforts are being done to help G&J Pepsi stay competitive as a leader in the digital transformation? I feel like we've touched this, but if you can go in a little bit more detail, but also what directions are you moving as you aim to improve business continuity?
Yeah, so the first part of that question, Catherine, is, we have, in the past 2 years kind of embarked on what we call an ERP strategy. So right now we have really what's kind of an amalgamation of systems that make up an ERP, but they are either legacy. Some of them are 20 years old. They're offline. So, I would say we're done with our cloud migration. All of our systems are some portion of, cloud stack, right? Whether it's infrastructure as a service or not, but they aren't full software as a service offerings. So it's hard to get data in and out of, those offerings. So we 2 years ago started this just journey and put together a strategy where we will be collapsing a lot of these legacy systems, these disparate systems into, one platform. So we've aligned to Microsoft Dynamics 365. As of about 3 weeks ago, we successfully launched our sales Dynamics 365 for sales. Now we're moving into a field service offering, and we're having conversations daily with other leaders within the business about bringing in finance, operations, supply chain, marketing, and we plan on doing that over the next 2 to 3 years. So, in fact, Dan's brother, Nathan Foster, who's not on this call but is incredibly talented, is heading up that I'll call it that channel, that department. And we'll be leading that initiative over the next 3 to 5 years. And we think that that's going to give us a competitive advantage because it's going to allow our teams to spend less time looking for information, having those insights delivered to them, not have to, jump from system to system. And then it's going to give us a platform to be able to innovate. And then obviously Dan's team from the development side and the data side to be able to take those what's being generated from the ERP systems that we're putting in place, and then offer up insights to all of our employees. So, if data is the new oil, we're the ones that are going to be putting in the rigs to get that oil. So I'm really looking forward to what the next couple of years is going to be and continue to be a leader and build, on what the successes that we've had over the past 5 to 6 years in other areas around collaboration and communication and modernizing those systems. We're going to do the exact same thing to our business platforms. The second part of your question was what direction are you moving to improve business continuity? Well, it's just that, right? Some of these are infrastructure as a service offerings. Some of them are 20 years old. And then, of course, you have to keep an eye on cybersecurity from a business continuity standpoint, right? Because that can be incredibly disruptive. So we're making investments on our cybersecurity strategy to protect data, protect our devices, our identities. And also, I think people often overlook the physical aspect of your cybersecurity, people walking into your buildings, clicking into your network, if that's possible. So, there's a number of tools and methods that we're looking at to improve in cybersecurity to avoid disruptions to our business. Any loss of revenue and loss of time, we can make sure that we reinvest that back in the business. And then, of course, going back to the platforms for ERP, collapsing those into a software as a service offering that has, 5 nines of uptime, financially backed by the service provider, and then being able to do backups and have a lot of those tools available to us in the cloud and integrate those with the systems that we have.
Eric, that's great. And I also love that data is the new oil. That I might have to steal that line from you, so I hope you don't mind.
I probably stole that from somebody else too. So,
Oh,
yeah, have a ball. Yeah, go nuts with it. Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate it. So I really enjoy that. So you'll hear me quoting you.
Yeah.
So data is the new oil. I love that. And that brings me exactly to the next question for Daniel, which data coming from multiple sources can be difficult to manage. We all can agree on that. But how have you organized and simplified your ecosystem at Pepsi right now?
Well, I would say that this, our ecosystem from data falls in line with kind of what we've already talked about, right? So all of our data right now resides in something in Azure. So, when you're in the cloud, it's really helped us to organize our data strategy. So the tools and services in that ecosystem help to simplify that, right? So your data's in the same place, your data lake's in the same space that all your data warehouse is in, that's in the same space that, honestly, when you start looking at the Dynamics 365 space that, our CDS and Dataverse environments are in. So everything's kind of in that same world. We've done a lot of work to move most of our data into our data warehouse so that we have a centralized place to pull it out from. And, also Azure gives us those common technologies that not only is just, hey, where do we store the data? Where does this data live? Right. So that's easy now that it's all sort of in the same space. But those technologies that are native inside of Azure give us that ability to ETL things around between these integrated solutions, right? So if you stand up a new SQL server inside your Azure platform, it's almost automatically integrated for you. So keeping things in the same environment in the cloud is really giving us that, that organized, simplified ecosystem. We do have, a lot of SaaS systems and things that we're trying to integrate, but, those tools that Azure provides allows us easy access to those and easy integration between those two.
Dan, if I could add to that as well, I think you and the team have done a nice job of taking data from all of those different systems, modeling it within our data warehouse, data lake, and within Azure, and then be able to stitch that data together from different components and different systems to then make that data available through Power BI. So as we talked about making this a simpler experience from our end users perspective, they now just go to Power BI. They go to one place to find all of their data instead of going to multiple systems and having to run multiple reports from different systems and potentially export that and figure out how to bring that data together. We're doing that for them behind the scenes. And I think Dan and the team has done a great job of really figuring out how to take and integrate our data behind the scenes in order to present that to the user. So it's a unified, simpler experience for them.
Yeah. The Power BI, the Power BI environment good call out, Brian, is a huge portion of what we're doing. So it's one thing to have all these different technologies in the back. But if you had to provide that out to the user community and out to your, even at some points we're trying to work this to our customers through different technologies, that becomes very cumbersome. When we just, as an organization, put a lot of effort and a lot of time to migrate to a single tool, a single source for self-service BI or whether we were delivering these, automatically to them. So their experience is a common experience, and our maintenance and our organization of that is in one common platform.
Great. Congratulations, guys, again on that. So it sounds like you have that single source of truth is what I'm hearing again. Right. You've been able
We hope to have it.
We're working toward it. Yeah, we're continuing to work toward it. Yeah.
And Power BI seems to be that tool that's really been helpful.
Right.
Awesome. Well, this is our last question, and then we do have some questions trickling in the chat. But before I get to those, the last one for all three of you is the future of Pepsi, right? So what is your aspirations, but really what is the big goal for 2021?
Yeah. I'll kick it off and then you guys jump in. So, as Eric mentioned earlier, we've embarked on this unified ERP initiative that'll really carry us into the next 5 years. This is probably the largest business initiative that'll impact our business partners and really the largest business initiative other than the cloud initiative, for G&J. We mentioned earlier about the machine learning components and improving, the usage of, Azure machine learning and how we're using that to do auto orders, and we're also going to look to use it to improve our product optimization out in the market. So whether you're in a convenience store or, a large format grocery store, optimizing the right product, the right set at the right time for the customer based off of where you're at. So consumers in, a within Columbus versus, southeastern Ohio, you have a different consumer and a different demand. And we want to make sure that we optimize the products accordingly based off of the data and based off of buying behaviors. I think the other thing, for us is this has been a journey of transforming ourselves internally as a digital technology team and to enable business transformation and really enable that transformation in all other areas of the company. So we're on a path of, as you've been hearing, simplification to deliver faster solutions with a smaller application footprint while we reduce cost and really improve that digital experience for our employees and our customers. But, people may think that business transformation or digital transformation is costly, but to be honest, it doesn't have to be. We've been able to keep our budget flat or even reduce it over the past 3 years while we've executed on this strategy. It does require leadership commitment. It does require investment in the proper technologies, but again, it can be done within your existing structure, typically if you're creative. So, in our case, we use the Gartner PACE model as our North Star and our guiding principle. And we determine, what platforms or what technologies are systems of record. And then we look and see which ones are systems of differentiation. And then, which, if any, are systems of innovation. And then we identify the money and the resources that we align to each of those. And we look for opportunities to remove cost by consolidating those systems of record and be able to reinvest those dollars and those people into growing systems of differentiation or innovation that would really separate us from our peers and our competitors. So, by following that strategy, it really has given us a strategic advantage in the market, allowing us to go to market with innovative tools quicker and enable business growth in unique ways that we really haven't done before. Dan, Eric, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think, most of our, what's next for us, we've kind of already talked to, whether it's our ERP strategy or our data strategy, things that are going on there. But, I think Brian kind of touched this a little bit is from a business side, we want our organization to be a tech company as much as they are a beverage company. So, to do that is part implementation of the technology itself. The other is the adoption of that, right? So adoption's a primary objective. It's one thing to implement and one thing to have something available. It's another to have adoption of those tools. And even beyond that, I think we really aim to have a really high level of tech intensity within our teams. So we don't just want our teams to just, we use OneDrive or we use CRM, we use, the data. We really want them to be high level users of that and basically leveraging every piece of what value that can bring out of that tool that we've invested in. I think that's the ultimate goal for us.
Yeah, I think, Brian and Dan have done a good job of describing, and we talked about this, in previous questions, obviously with Dynamics and Order Assist. We're expanding our offerings into chilled juice. We've been in chilled for a while. But we're going to expand that, from a digital technology standpoint. That's going to thrust us based on the requirements into looking at IoT. So not only are you seeing this on the machine learning side with Dan and his team, but also looking at, sensors to track data for these and automating that and making it less burdensome for our drivers to be able to track this along with keeping our, product integrity delivered all the way through to our customers without adding a lot of overhead for that. So that's going to be a big initiative for us as well. But I think, the biggest thing that, Dan and I and Brian and Becky, who's not on here with the business transformation team, we're tasked with is going to be to develop our people as well. I mean, that's going to be 2021 and beyond. Dan and I have been doing this almost a combined 30 years. Not saying we're getting up there in our age, but, we're being asked to do a lot more from a leadership standpoint, but, the technical requirements still exist. And, we're trying to build that skill set amongst our team, on a number of platforms that we're working, whether it's Power Platform, whether it's working with data. Some of those that are in more of the entry level support jobs, we're trying to build their skill set. And allow them to take on these projects and become a lot more and take a lot of that pressure off of Dan and I, and make sure we're not, single threaded or there's a dependency on us that if, something happened, or we're on too many projects that we can still move these initiatives forward. So, there's a great example where, recently I think, one member of my team, Leslie Fox, has been promoted, but she's done a number of initiatives, particularly around like charitable requests, for example, learning an API from a web form and being able to ingest that into SQL and then using teams to surface that data and make decisions around our charitable requests. But really, at the end of the day, what she did was she enabled visibility for our organization to be able to roll this up to the board of directors and talk about, I think, all of the great things that G&J does for the community, right? We see the Pepsi name, and we often associate that with a big national company, but G&J is really a local family-owned organization that does a lot and cares a lot about its community, from sporting events to putting names on signs in basketball gyms. You see it all the time, but you don't really think anything of it. So she's done a great job of not moving data, but her real mission in that was to actually enable the organization to talk about the great things and have quantifiable data to go out to the community and say, hey, here's the great things we do, and enable our sales folks to talk about why it's good to partner with us and be your beverage distributor of choice. Great.
Well, I appreciate you guys sharing the 2020 vision. I can hear that a lot of it is talent, but also both internally and attracting new talent. So that's great to hear. I think, especially in the times we are, that's good that you'll be hiring soon. So good to hear. There were 2 questions that came through that I'd love to share with the group. So the first one is from one of the listeners, and the question was, how are you leveraging technology within your plants to manage inventory of products, specifically with software and robotics? How do you support business with this data? Any exciting solutions you guys are working on?
You guys want to take it, or you want me to take it?
You kick it off. Let me let me digest that.
I can repeat part of it. It was a long question. Good one, but long.
So I would tell you, in terms of robotics and how we're using, what we're doing in our warehouses and in our plants. That is an area that we are just starting to scratch the surface on and just to embark on. So, from a strategic ERP perspective, we actually had some of the largest gaps in our sales force and our service team that we had to address first. So we're going after closing those gaps from a business perspective, from a platform perspective, for sales, for service, from finance and accounting and HR. And then we'll move into operations. So, from a supply chain, from a logistics, from a warehouse perspective, we're making some small inroads. We're using RPAs. We're doing a lot of automation in terms of moving data from behind the scenes to find efficiencies and remove manual effort from a lot of our business partners. But in specific to the operations arena, that's actually further down in our ERP strategy.
But I'll say, when we're the data space for us is something that we're formally growing. So these are areas that now that we're actually hiring, some new employees, some new staff. Monday we have some new team members joining us, and those are some of the areas that we want them to go out and focus on. What problems are you having, and how can we leverage the data? Our organization is data rich. We like to say it's data rich, right? And maybe analytics poor sometimes. So we're great. We have a lot of data to use. We're still figuring out how we leverage that data. So I'd love to tell you we have a real nice whiz bang solution out there, but right now we're kind of ground floor when it comes to certain areas of business. Sales, we're all over sales, right? And we're a sales organization, but operations to us is the next frontier.
Great. Well, thank you. I think a lot of companies find themselves in that area right now with data and analytics, right? We're all just still kind of taking those first few bites of analytics right now. But I mean, you're already doing machine learning, so that's exciting. All right, the last question we have came through, and the question is, how much organization change management, OCM, was part of the transformation? Who had to lead that charge? What blockers did they see? All the fun stuff.
Yeah, I'd say that's been a big one for us. So in terms of organizational change, it's been more internally from a digital technology perspective and a business transformation perspective. So we're not just IT, we're digital technology and business transformation. And one of the things, like Dan said, we were a very lean team with only 6 people just 2.5 years ago, and we've almost tripled in size. But that's because one, the company is invested in us. Two, they believe in the strategy. Three, they've seen the results of what we're doing. And part of it was teaching. It was change management in terms of teaching the business how to interact with us and not just come and ask for a technical solution, but let's really talk about the business problem. Let's start with what are you asking, not just a solution, but what's the problem? And let's identify the problem first. Sometimes it's a technical solution. Sometimes it's a process, improvement. Other times it's a combination of all of the above. But really it was, who do we want to be? How do we structure ourselves? How do we internally mature and get better? So we went from waterfall to agile. We're in the middle of using the Scrum, methodologies and the agile methodologies and working in 2-week sprints. And we've been transparent with the business about what are the business priorities. Did we get our executive team aligned to those business priorities? And then therefore we'll work on those. Number two, what have we worked on the last 2 weeks? What's value is it bringing to the business? And let's show you what we're going to deploy and put into the environment and what that means to the business. So, for instance, we had a sprint review earlier this week, and we had multiple members of our executive team join, listen in, and it was very interactive. They were asking questions. They could see what we were going to deploy to the business. And it's a great way for us to be transparent and hold ourselves accountable, but also show to the business, here's what you asked for. Here's what we're going to deliver. And as a result, here's how we need you to interact with us in order to bring forth this success in the future. So it's been a major transformation for us as an internal digital technology team and business transformation team. And it's been teaching the business how to approach those problems differently and how to start with identifying the business problem and then how to interact with us so that we can bring the most value to them and really enable them in the future and not just be problem solvers because you asked us to do X, Y, and Z.
Makes sense. Well, great. Guys, this has been great. We've gone over a little bit, so I apologize for going over, but I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy workday to, first of all, join Executives in Tech to talk about all the cool stuff going on with Pepsi. Also, I really appreciate you guys taking time to go ahead and answer the questions through the chat. And lastly, just thank you again so much. Thank you to MavenX for sponsoring this. And gentlemen, it was great to speak with each and every one of you.